Let me tell you about the show's newest sponsor, Juniper Mountain Coffee. You can check them out at junipermountaintradingpost.com and check out everything that they sell. I really like what they say on their website. And guys, if you are a coffee connoisseur like me, this here American company that's not run by a bunch of wokesters might be worth checking out for you. What they say is, we roast coffee for those loyal to a lost way of life, those that never back down in the face of adversity, the ones that keep their word, treat people with respect, and still believe in the importance of hard work. We offer some of the best coffee in the world and look forward to earning a spot in your cup. And they have definitely earned a spot in my cup. Whether you like light roast, dark roast, ground already, or not ground, you just want to order it fresh. And they even have those little pod things for those of you that just make one cup at a time. I drink too much coffee for that, so I don't do that. And they also have a cold brew. But it's a great company, great story. You guys are going to dig these guys. Check them out at junipermountaintradingpost.com. Let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. This is that time of year when it's really time to turn up the heat on your scouting. We're going through summer. Season's going to be here before you know it. And I don't care if you're going after mule deer, whitetail, the mighty wapiti, whatever it is. Scouting is imperative, and it makes it much easier when you use trail cameras where they are allowed. And let me tell you something. I like trail cameras that are easy to use, functional, and have good quality pictures. That brings us to Spypoint. Spypoint trail cameras. You can check them out at spypoint.com. And it doesn't matter if you're looking to do one of the cell cams, like the Flex X or the Flex G36 or the LM2. They have some great deals on their website. Like right now, if you check them out, they've got some clearance cameras going on the cell cams. You can also get a cell link that attaches to any regular cell camera and will transmit pictures right to your phone. The other trail cameras, if you're way out in the backcountry and don't have phone service out there, the Force Pro S and the Force Pro are my go-to cameras. I absolutely love them. If you guys saw the pictures from this last bear season, they were really high-quality pictures, and they were all done with that Force Pro camera. So check it out, guys, at spypoint.com and let them know the Western Huntsman sent ya. All right, guys, let's go to Powell, Wyoming with my buddy Dan Pickar. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. It is July the, 25th, I think? Somewhere around there. And it is a nice, hot, balmy July. How you guys doing? I got, if you were listening last summer, I went down to Powell, Wyoming, and met up with all my pals over there at Eastmans Hunting Journals. And one of the guys I got to sit down and record with is probably, I mean, I don't want to speak too boldly, Dan, but one of the best mule deer hunters I've ever seen or met in my life, and just a solid hunter, man. And I'm really happy to bring him back on from Eastman's. Everybody, welcome, Mr. Dan Pickar. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. It's good to be back.
I'm pronouncing your last name right?
Oh, you're nailing it.
Okay,
yeah.
Sweet. Because I always, somebody was I don't know where I heard, you were on some podcast with somebody, I can't even remember who it was. It sounded like they almost said like Dan Pickar, and I think they just mispronounced it, and I got it right.
Oh yeah, no,
okay.
You got it right. I've heard everything under the sun over the years going through school. So,
yeah. I think. I don't know. It's funny. Some of the easiest last names too are often mispronounced the most. It's interesting how that works.
No, absolutely.
Unless your name is Guy Duplantier, I've heard his. He does the Western Contours podcast, and I've heard people mispronounce his name so many different ways I can't even see straight. So, man, how you doing, brother? How are things?
I'm good. Yeah, no, good. Just kind of getting ready for season. We're 3 weeks out from archery antelope, if you can believe that.
I know,
So,
man. I don't even know. Like, it's so weird how that worked out this year. It was like 1 minute I felt like I was buried in snow and wishing the passes would clear so I can get up to my bear hunting spots. And now all of a sudden it's the end of July, and I'm like, oh man, I've been shooting my bow here and there, but I need to like really start shooting the bow.
oh yeah, it's time to get serious.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. It's been a busy summer for us. So, which is funny. Speaking of bear hunting, man, that video, Luke is the one that posts these videos sometimes to my Instagram and I think yours and the Eastman's ones or whatever.
Yep.
Luke put that video of you saucing that bear, and that is like hands down by far the most viewed and interacted video reel thing I've ever had posted on Instagram. It's like
That's right.
It's hundreds of thousands of views, man. I've never seen anything like it.
It just wouldn't die. It was crazy over like several weeks even.
I know, and I still like, it was actually like 2 months, man, and like I still get comments on it. All of a sudden I'll get some notification or whatever late at night, and I'll look at it and it's somebody commenting on that video, and I get it too, because it is a pretty slick video. You're just like cool as ice as this bear's coming into range and make this great shot on him. And I want to ask you about that, actually, because some of the people in that were commenting, oh, you hit him in the wrong spot. Tell everybody how far away that bear died.
Yeah, he only went like 15 yards.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And if anybody hasn't seen that, the arrow appears to go in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but like the arrow impacts like that upper front shoulder area.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah. It was a little forward, I will say, just a little bit forward, but through the shoulders, through the front of the lungs. That bear was flinging blood. We cut it, obviously, because it was very graphic. And then I shot the bear again, and death moans and all sorts of things like that. And so, some things just don't belong on social media, and that was one of them. But it was just a little bit forward, but right at the front of the lungs. And the bear, he died within 15 seconds from start to finish and went 15 yards.
Wow, man. It was incredible. It really is a cool clip. And I agree, there's, I'm glad you guys cut it off, because I'm super picky with, like kill shots that get posted on my page. I think that the cleanliness of that is, it makes it so that it's like super educational, that people that are into bear hunting with bows can get a lot out of it without it being like super offensive to non-bear hunters or non-hunters in general.
Yeah, for sure. And, in the world of social media, it's like, why attract negative attention if you can help it?
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
So, it's real life, and I like to be raw and uncut too, but it's like on social media, it's like, why attract, psychotic people that are going to send me death threats because I shot a bear?
Yeah, I know. I think I'm going pretty good this year. I haven't had any death threats in 2023 yet.
Good.
So I must be doing something right. I don't know. Tell everybody what you do for Eastmans, in case they don't know about you, and give us like a quick snapshot of your background.
Yeah. For Eastmans, I do a little bit of everything. Ike refers to me as, jack of all trades. I do a lot of editing, writing, show season. I do gear reviews, YouTube videos. I have an online series on YouTube on the Eastmans Hunting Journals YouTube channel called Beyond the Grid. I'm a producer for that. So I, go on these hunts and then produce epic content and drop them on the interwebs. And that's probably my favorite thing that I do of this job is filming my adventures and then sharing them with you all. So I enjoy that. And then I do I'm part of the learning group of Eastmans, meaning the online mule deer course, which is our online start to finish A to Z how to hunt mule deer course that I built last year with Brian Barney and Guy Eastman. So that takes up a lot of my time as well. And then fall hunting season, I'm busy for 2.5 months hunting. And so as you can imagine, I get a great variety all throughout the year, depending on the season and depending on what's going on. And so I love that about my job, is just the variety.
Yeah, man, I was always changing.
Oh yeah, no, every week's different. And I have running projects that I work on for several days, and then I have little things I do in between. And so it's just busy, 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 and go, go, go.
Dude, there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this, including me, that are, cause I think of my day job. Okay, I got to go I drive 4 hours, get on like the roof of, let's say, a hospital, and go up there and take some pictures and analyze the roof condition, and then go back and sit behind my computer for like 4 hours and do this estimate in the most boring software program ever invented, known to man, and present this bid, right? That's like the gist of what I do. How in the hell does somebody get your job, where your job is to go film hunting and then create a bunch of content around it and put it out there and develop these courses where people like people like me need them, right? The mule deer course where we could jump on and go through, all sorts of different tips and tactics from, some of the best mule deer hunters in the West, and put that out there. I mean, I know it's a lot of hard work and you put in a lot of time and a lot of hours, but it sounds pretty fantastic. And I just want to know, like, how'd you get to this point?
Yeah. It was definitely started back when I was a kid, with my dad introducing me to the outdoors at a young age. And so I just had that time to evolve and to shape kind of what I really enjoyed in the outdoors. And I've done everything from, big game hunting, antelope hunting with a rifle all growing up. And then I was really into waterfowl hunting for a while, and then just looking for that next challenge. And that was bow hunting, something that was difficult to master. It was exciting because you get up close and personal. So I just love the challenge and testing myself and seeing what I'm made of is kind of how that evolved. And then I was lucky enough with timing and going to college. And then I just wanted to get better at bow hunting. And so I became a hunting guide outside of college. And then I just kind of revolved my life around bow hunting there for a few years. I worked seasonal at a ranch, being a fishing guide, ranch work, and then a hunting guide in the fall. And then I'd go to Hawaii in the springtime and just hunt and just get repetitions in. And so I had, 5 years to really focus on bow hunting and build that skill set and build knowledge and travel and hunt. And just like anything, it's just, if you want to get good at it, you just got to do it a lot, go hunting a lot. Shooting targets only gets you so far. And so, and knowing that, I was like, I just need more repetitions in the field, because, everybody's heard the stories growing up of the big one that got away. And I never wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be clutch in the moment of truth, and clutch when there's the biggest buck or bull in front of me that I've ever seen in my life, and not screw it up. And that kind of just drove me to get better over the years. And then just kind of evolved in hunting with a lot of guys, different people, and networking. And I ended up guiding one week with Jordan Brashears, who was a writer for Eastmans at the time, doing the MRS stuff. And that was about the time right after Nate Simmons left. And so the Eastmans were looking for some bow hunting content. And so Jordan was given the opportunity to hunt, and he found me, and he's like, dude, you'd be perfect for this. Cause I grew up filming all my stuff too. So just kind of self-taught and, watching the old VHS videos back in the day and wanting to make my own my own videos, home videos of hunting when we were kids. And so just doing it a long time, and then meeting the right people. And before you know it, I'm an employee. So it's not like I submitted a resume. I got lucky and met the right people. And it was a timing thing, like most things in life. Like I think some people are just right place, right time in
Sure.
many different aspects of life. And so I think that's just kind of how it lined up.
It's what the interesting takeaway from what you just said there, though. I think, whoops, I think that was my phone. Your phone wasn't beeping, right?
Nope.
That's the downfall with recording with a phone. Anyway, I think one of the interesting things that you just talked about there, because when you look at skill sets and hunters that tend to be braggadocious in a way, but don't have the stats to back it up, kind of thing. Yeah, we've all met that guy, your uncle or some dude you work with who acts like, they're God's gift to hunting or whatever. Sorry, my phone is going nuts here. Let me just pause that or shut that down. There we go. Okay, we've all met that guy, right? And I think that when you're talking about somebody, you're like, oh, well, it was just good timing. But that's only part of it, Dan, because you have the skill set. And the skill set that is required to be in a position that you're in, because nobody wants to watch an amateur hunter on YouTube all the time. Yeah, it's just not the realistic expectation to have when we're talking about creating content. And so the skill set has to be in place. Like I can't do a YouTube channel, dude. I can't do like a bunch of hunting videos because 9 times out of 10 I'm walking out of there with an unnotched tag, and I'm okay with that. But actually I'm not. I'm going to get better, man. You'll mentor me to greatness, right?
Absolutely.
No, I think what I'm driving at is so many people think that spending 1 or 2 weeks a year in the field is going to make them this great professional hunter, and they have a hard time defining the difference between your average hunter versus like an actual professional hunter, and the level of skill that separates the two gets diminished by those people that I was referring to earlier, the uncle or the guy you work with that acts like they're this great hunter with all this great hunting experience, and then come to find out, they spend a couple of weekends a year and that's what they've been doing for their whole life, and they've like killed one elk, maybe. Yeah, and I don't know really where I'm going with this, other than I think it's important to highlight what that skill set differentiator is, and you nailed it with time in the field, and the fact that it's like being in the NBA. Those guys didn't just practice once a week shooting hoops, man. These guys are out there working their butts off every day, and that's what separates your average hunters. And I think it's important too to point out there's nothing wrong with somebody that's just an average hunter that just gets enjoyment out of going out for maybe a week or so a year and getting in the field, and maybe just they like being at camp with the boys or something. There's nothing wrong with that, and so don't anybody take me wrong. But to get to that level, what you're talking about takes a lot of time. It's a huge commitment and a lot of practice, just like anything else. You want to be a great guitar player, you got to practice a lot. You want to be a great, basketball player, you got to practice a lot. Anything you do in life. And that's the point and level of which you've gotten to enable you to have this cool career where you get to hang out with everybody at Eastmans and create all this content and YouTube and mule deer courses and everything else. So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, and being humble is big. And I always just have the mindset of being a student of the game. I'm never going to master this. I'm never going to be the best of the best. Anytime you think that you're the best at something, there's 10 people that are way better than you are. Mm-hmm. And so it's about, for me, it's about doing it for the right reasons and testing myself and seeing what I'm made of and challenging myself. And that's why I find the job so enjoyable. Is Guy and Ike allow me to be me, and I can hunt. I hunt for the right reasons. I'm not hunting for other reasons that, maybe Guy or Ike would want me to do. They're not asking me to be somebody I'm not. They're asking me to go out there and do what you do, and they have faith in me, and they believe in me, and they believe in my skill set and my perseverance, and that's ultimately how you become successful. But that's the special thing, because doing it on video and doing it for work, and you're expected to produce, that's a lot of pressure. That really it ruins it. It ruins it for some guys. It really does. I've talked to them, and it ruins the whole thing for them. And for me, I like pressure. I thrive on pressure. I like to see what I'm made of when I'm under pressure, and so it doesn't bug me really. I don't lose sleep over it. I like being tested, and so it just fits. It's not for everybody, but I like it, and I like just the desire to get better and be a student of the game, and just do better every hunt and treat every hunt as my last. And that's it. I mean, that's about all I can tell you.
and that's, And that's why you're good at what you do. And that's why people seek you out to learn how to, say, mule deer hunt. Let's plug that course. Tell us a little bit about that course and what people can expect to get out of it.
Yeah. The purpose of the course was to take a novice guy, an intermediate guy, or a professional hunter, or an expert hunter, whatever you want to call it, but just take their skill set to the next level. So we started from basic safety in the backcountry. We go through gear, we go through our packs, we go through our food choices, our calorie counts, our boots, our broadheads, our arrows, our rifles, you name it, and it's covered. And probably my favorite lesson is the hunt strategy lesson, because I think that's where you really take your skill set to the next level, because you're only as your gear doesn't define how good of a hunter you are, right? It's they say it's not the bow, it's the Indian, the old saying.
Yep.
And so the hunt strategy section is myself, Brian, and there's a sum of guy in there, and we basically do a narration step by step of our hunts, and why we did what we did on this stock or this approach, and what was going through our mind, and what we were thinking about, and how we're using the terrain, and how we're using the wind, and failures too, misses too. That's a part of bow hunting too, and we talk about that. And that's ultimately how you get better at it, is being able to immerse yourself in a scenario and learn from it. That's the bottom line.
Let me ask you this, man, because I've gone through part of the course, but the one thing that happens is, well, let me re-ask it this way. For somebody that is really good at finding mule deer, and really good at finding mediocre bucks, and really good at killing mediocre bucks, because I am. That's what my whole life has been is mule deer, and I'm good at finding these decent 4 points, maybe a little 4x5 kind of buck, but these 150, 160, 200 class, depending on where you're at. Which, by the way, your class of mule deer down in your neck of the woods is I'm pretty envious. The problem that I have is I struggle finding the big guys, the big suckers that you're always putting down. I usually notch a tag on a mule deer every year. Well, unless the last couple of years I've been mainly whitetail hunting, but I'm looking to. Will the course be helpful to a guy who's looking to up his game in terms of the class of animal? Finding that 150-inch better kind of caliber mule deer. Does that make sense? How I'm asking that?
Yeah, no, for sure. We talk about different classes of bucks and what to look for, and ultimately, you're never going to kill a giant buck if they don't live there, right? I mean, bottom line, 90% of the hunts across the West are opportunity hunts, where it's very, very rare to come across to like a 180 buck, or even a 170 buck. It's pretty darn rare. The only way you get bucks of that size is, habitat, but age. You need to get age on bucks 7, 8, 9 years old. And, most of these states like Montana public land, it's managed for opportunity. And so these deer don't really get the chance to get age on them. And so that's the first thing is bucks or hunting areas that deer can get age on them. So that could be very rugged areas that are hard to access and don't get a lot of hunting pressure, but you also got to have the genetics and you got to have the quality feed. So yeah, we go through this on the course on some of the different regions across the West, and where to focus on and to consider when it comes down to trophy mule deer.
Okay. That anything else you want to cover on that mule deer course?
Yeah, it's very extensive. I definitely feel you get your money's worth. We have our preseason special going on right now. It's $10 off, so it's $89, and that's for the year. And you get a outdoor edge knife, and you get those black Ovis meat sacks, and your name goes in the hat to win a mule deer hunt with us here at Eastman. So kind of a big deal. A lot of great information. It'll take you 8 hours to get through the course. It's all video driven, so it's very easy. And yeah, sit back and learn a few things and take some notes. And I promise you, you'll come out of it with a lot more knowledge and many more tools in the toolbox for your next hunt.
Dude, I didn't know you guys were doing a hunt giveaway as part of that package right now. So like, if I went in, I know I've already got access to the course here, but if I went in and like made some fake account and I win, would you guys be pissed?
We're like, we can't give this to Jim. We're going to draw another name.
What are we getting? Freaking Huntsman, man. We're not hunting with that guy.
Then we find out you have like 36 accounts.
I'd do it, man. I feel like if I got to spend like one day hunting with a guy like you, my hunting game would go way up. So I'd have to, I'll get one of those like mustache costumes or something and just show up. Be like, I'm the winner.
Come with a different name and everything.
Yeah, my name is Elijah, and I won your shit.
Oh, that's funny.
You got to watch out, man. Don't put it above me.
I love it. I'm going to keep an eye on you.
All right, man. No, that's great. I hope you guys listening, if you're as nutty about mule deer hunting as I am, and whether you're just getting into it or you are, you've got some salt, your salt shaker's a little full, but you haven't tagged out on that monster buck like me. I'd love to see you guys get into this course because I really do believe in these courses. And a mule deer course is fairly different than some of these other, hunting courses that you hear or see about out there, because mule deer are very specific animals in there. And the way that you go after a mule deer is very different. And let me ask you this, Dan. If I get on a four-wheeler and I can jump a forked horn right out of the ditch on the side of the road, is that a good way? Is that how we get it done in Wyoming?
You got to pull over and get 30 feet off the right of way, and then you can launch.
Oh, man, that's just a technicality. No, I'm kidding.
You know what they say, if a tree falls in the woods and did it really make a sound if nobody's there to hear it?
Exactly. No, on a serious note, guys, that I see a lot of 2-point, 3-point, and small 4-points going down each season, mule deer wise, and I'm not disparaging anybody. Hunt for hunt for what you're after. It's your hunt. But if you have the desire, like I do, to kill some of these monster bucks out there, this course would be the way to get it figured out, because I didn't have the person in my life growing up to teach me how to go after those big suckers, man. And so it's just like this. It's like this. I see guys like you, and it's like, man, how did they learn this? How did they learn how to be this effective when in the high country going after a mule deer? And so, they can find the course eastmanshuntingjournal.com/mule deer. I can't remember what that. Let me see. If I can find it.
It's just eastmans.com, and it's on the homepage. Really easy to find.
Guys, I'll put that in the show notes. In fact. All right, man, let's shift gears. I know, like, we talked about grizzly bears before you jumped on here, and you are, tell us a little bit about, we discussed talking about grizzly bear safety and hunting in grizzly country. As of, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, there was a jogger that was just killed down in Yellowstone. by a grizzly.
Yep.
Sounds like she was jogging, and I didn't read the full article, but it sounds like she was jogging and possibly had some like headphones in and didn't hear or see it coming and didn't have any bear spray or anything. So give us your take on some grizzly bear safety.
Yeah, that's a huge one. It seems like the closer you get to the park, the sketchier it is with these bears that just want to eat people. I guess they're just crazy and they're fearless, and it's insane out there. But yeah, just having a head on your head on a swivel, and I talk about it a lot too. And I think I brought it up in the mule deer course too. But just being aware with how you travel in country, meaning you're not going up gullies, you're not beating thick brush where you could run into a bear. And I know that, I grew up in the Flathead, so it's all brushy up there and you don't have a choice but to beat brush. North Idaho is the same way, but do all you can to not surprise a bear. That's the big one. And then, having headphones in, that's a no-no. A few years ago up by Glacier Park, he was actually a law enforcement officer, but he was off duty with his family, and they were riding bicycles, and a bear chased him down and killed him when he was riding his bike.
No kidding. I didn't hear about that one.
It's probably 6 years ago.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like a movie, like what is going on. And what's even more insane is the bear lovers and the predator lovers and, the leftists that are totally anti-hunting and anti-conservation. They like that. They're the ones that are saying that, we as humans are impeding on their homes and we're the problem. It's not the bears.
I know. I hate that comparison, Dan, because they act like we were implanted here by aliens and like Earth isn't our home either. Yeah.
Exactly.
What? Go ahead and finish your point. I kind of cut you off there.
Yeah, no. And so what's so ideologically wrong about that is that they don't really acknowledge or accept like the Western hunting and conservation model of big game management. And they prefer that nature be returned to its original form, where man doesn't have any say or do in the hand of management of these animals.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because what and who can define what the original form was, as if there was ever life with these animals pre-human. It's not like the existence can separate each other. And to include, what about them when they live in Jackson, Wyoming? Or they live in L.A. or somewhere like that. Are you going to return that area back to its original state of this like phantom utopian wild nature preserve? I don't understand the mentality here. How far ahead of objective are we on the endangered species list or for grizzlies in terms of the ECA?
Yeah. Back in 76, they went on the list, and they claimed there were less than 100 bears or whatever the number was. But they keep moving the goalpost, and so I don't know that there's a set number now. But they keep moving the goalpost because it's political, and of course they claim science. And the problem of it is it's the Game and Fish departments and the Federal Wildlife Service. It's more of like the feds that believe the same. And like California and Colorado, like the Humane Society is infiltrating the parks and wildlife and the hunting there. And, they outlaw cougar hunting, mountain lion hunting in California. What happens? The dogs are getting snatched up off people's porches, and joggers are getting attacked. And in their minds, for whatever reason, they have these infatuation and hard-ons for predators, and that they need to be untouched. And there's even, it's crazy. But these are the type of people that are infiltrating our game and fish departments.
Yeah. They have no, and they're also infiltrating, wildlife commissions such as like the Washington Wildlife Commission, and in California that's happening pretty well, and Colorado. We're seeing it in Colorado right now with the reintroduction of wolves into Colorado, which is going to be a nightmare for our friends in Colorado. But that you make a good point. You made a good point about how going back to this concept of getting it back to the original way it used to be, or as if there's some they have this fantasy of this pre-human time, like this pre-human time when wildlife thrived by itself and everything was balanced and there was no wildlife management issues, as if there was I think that they look at it as if when you take the West and European settlement in the West of the United States, that was not very long ago. And I think that just from some of the things I read them write and hear them say when they're promoting these bogus philosophies, it's an absolute shit show. They act like there was no human existence here prior to European settlement. Like you go exactly 250 years ago or 300 years ago, there was, it was just this wildlife utopia. There was a perfect amount of wolves and they had the perfect amount of elk and antelope and deer and everything else. And that's just not reality. That this idea that there was no wildlife management prior to European settlement is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And so I know that they think that the science is on their side, and they have this proclivity to, exaggerate what the science actually says and exaggerate what the problem actually is. And in fact, I would argue at this point now, Dan, that they've taken it to a point in which there needs to start being some kind of liability. Like people are getting killed where they shouldn't be. And there needs to be this liability that can be placed upon these animal rights activists in some way. And I don't know what the answer is or how we achieve that. But if you think about the fact that, like that bicyclist that you were talking about getting killed up by, you said it was up by Glacier?
Yeah, West Glacier, yep.
And there's been some hunting fatalities over the last few years from grizzly bears. From Montana to there was a couple of attacks in Idaho that were not fatal last year, which, by the way, my friends in North Idaho, make no mistake, you Unit 4, Unit 4A, Unit 1, Unit 3 hunters, Unit 6, there are grizzly bears in there. So don't hunt it like it's not grizzly country, because I live here, guys, and I see them all the time. They're on my cameras, everything. So that aside, the liability factor, and I don't know if this is even achievable, but these people didn't have to die at the hands of a grizzly bear because one little hunting season, it doesn't have to be, there doesn't need to be 1,000 tags out there for killing grizzly bears. A few hunters goes a long way in teaching these bears that human interaction is dangerous for them. That's why in Alaska, the bear density is much higher, but per capita, the attack and fatal encounters is much less than it is here in the lower 48. It's because these bears understand that human interaction is dangerous. And I think that there should somehow be some level of liability or lawsuit that could be formulated to come after these animal rights groups and say, look, we get it, you don't like hunting, but hunters are humans, and humans are dying at the hands of these grizzly bears because they have no fear of humans, and they are way overpopulated. That's why they're coming down into my neighborhood and chasing my neighbor's chickens all over the place, because they're running out of habitat. I just don't understand where this mentality comes from, that we need to put certain animals up on this pedestal, and they don't need management. It's just not realistic. What say you? I've been talking about Hoffman boots for a very long time. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of this company. And it's not just the great products that they make. It's the story behind the company and the people that run it. This generational family of shoemakers right here in North Idaho makes some of the best hunting boots and pack boots and lineman boots and all your boot needs right in one place at hoffmanboots.com. For us hunters, I highly recommend the Explorer. And I don't care if you're running in the 6-inch or the 8-inch or the 10-inch. Personally, I love my 8-inch Explorers. They've got the Vibram sole. They are totally waterproof. There's no break-in period. Guys, you can't go wrong with Hoffman boots because you get all that without breaking the bank. So check them out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout for 10% off, and find out why I have been wearing my Hoffman boots for years and years. Don't be one of those people that have it in their mind that Savage Arms is the same firearms that your grandpa was running around with 40 years ago. It's not. Big game hunting rifles that you can count on. I love my Savage firearms. I have got the Savage 110 Hunter, and my daughter is pretty happy with this 110 Apex Hunter XP. The AccuTrigger is a really interesting little piece to this firearm, and it's a new piece of technology that if you've never tried one, you should, because it'll make you more accurate. It's a much easier, higher quality firearm than anything else I've got out there, and I've got a lot of firearms, guys, and so if you're in the market for a new hunting rifle, make sure you visit savagearms.com, because I promise you're going to find something that is accurate, easy to handle, easy to use, long range, functional, just a high quality weapon that you could take to the field and have a lot of confidence that when the time comes, you've got that Savage backing you up and you're going to be notching a tag. Check it out, savagearms.com. Let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's not science. It's an emotional-driven response to their political agenda. Mm-hmm. Fish and wildlife management is politics. It's not science anymore, unless us, the hunters, the taxpayers, and the guys that are buying license and supporting these departments, unless we speak out and hold them accountable, because it's political agendas that are pushing this ideology, and that's it. That's all it is. It's political agendas. Mm-hmm. In the greater Yellowstone and the greater Northern Continental Divide ecosystem, there's over 75 grizzly bears a year that are killed by the game and fish departments because they're getting into trouble or they're having conflicts with humans. There's so many bears ending up down in neighborhoods, ending up in places that they've never been seen before. It's just like the wolf ending up in California. They travel the same way.
Yeah.
And it's just political agendas. But I do think that, and this is crazy to say, what I'm going to say here, it's going to take the right person dying for somebody to be held accountable. Just like the corner crossing thing that happened. The right guys got caught, quote unquote, but they got cited, but they were lawyers and they had the funds to fight it and fight back, and they won. Mm-hmm. And that's all this is if somebody has the time or their money in the family of a victim from a grizzly bear to file a lawsuit against these game and fish departments in these states and the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service that blatantly refuse to manage a problem species that is scientifically out of control, and they refuse to do anything about it. That right there, it could be considered first-degree murder or second-degree murder at the minimum.
At the minimum, even manslaughter. Because it's the same thing. What kind of analogy would make sense here? What like it's almost like the same thing when law enforcement kills the wrong person. Or kill somebody that maybe wasn't a threat. It was unjustifiable for law enforcement to do that or whatever. And you have the general public that just has this big negative reaction, right? It's like a similar it's kind of a similar thing when we're talking about this. We've got hunters that have always been hunting because it's been passed down through their families and lineage for hundreds to 1,000 years, depending on what their lineage is. It's a human thing to do, and there's always this big misinterpretation with activists where when we argue for wildlife management, they take it as, oh, well, you want to kill all the grizzly bears out there. You want to kill all the wolves, or you want to kill all the mountain lions. Nobody is saying that. Look, we have a very robust mountain lion season in the state of Idaho, and we still have a shitload of mountain lions. Yeah. There's nobody's saying, let's go kill all the mountain lions. Idaho also has the most aggressive wolf management plan out of any state with wolves. And we also still have the highest population of wolves in the lower 48. So nobody is saying that we want to go out and kill all the grizzly bears. To the contrary, sure, let's have some grizzly bears. But when they are left unchecked and unmanaged, that's when they become dangerous to humans. These bears have gotten to that point. And so how do we get this into the mind, into the thick skulls of these activists that have no concept of what the reality of wildlife management and wildlife conservation and the North American model of conservation and what hunters really go after from a sense of trying to achieve this real balance that exists in the states where hunting is prolific, like in the West? How do we get this through their thick skulls that we don't want to terminate the entire population of grizzly bears? We just want them managed and have a healthy respect for humans.
Yep, exactly. And unfortunately, these people that we're up against don't care. Ultimately, they're anti-hunting, and in their little mind, once again, they believe that if we leave nature alone, there's no need for human intervention, and humans don't belong to be involved in managing wildlife. And so hunting is not in their outlook. It's not a part of their little dysfunctional mental agenda that they have for the ecosystem. And so that's the problem is just, it's like talking to a brick wall. You're never going to, tell them any different. They have their minds made up.
It's nuts, man. I mean, we can take that down a couple of different paths there in terms of this conversation, but I do believe, and I've talked about this on the show a few times, where there is this sense that a lot of this activism comes out of the woke leftist agenda and the mentality of the leftists that get into this groupthink mode. I don't know, man. I ponder things. I ponder things on a pretty philosophical level, even though I'm not super smart. I think about it from a sense that, like, we've created this society where we've got this level of comfort in life where, our biggest problems are the Uber Eats driver didn't deliver Taco Bell within the said time frame. Yeah, these things that become major issues in people's minds. They put the wrong shit in my mocha latte or whatever. These things that erupt emotions unnecessarily because things are so easy. And when I say they're easy, I understand people still have mortgages to pay and car payments, and the work could be a drag unless you're Dan Pickar working at Eastmans. No, I'm kidding. But these things in life where we've gotten to this place as a country and as a society and as a culture, we have to look for things to be outraged about. Hence woke America and cancel culture and these things. And one of the things that people, especially leftists, tend to attach themselves to are things that they really don't know anything about. Like, what does a person living in some big urban center in a somewhere on the West Coast somewhere that has no experience in the woods, has no experience hunting, has never gutted a fish before, has never pulled the trigger behind a rifle with a mule deer in the scope, or released an arrow on a black bear? What business or what experience do they have to even really have a solidified opinion that anybody should give any credibility to? I don't understand why they are the ones that get listened to over the actual people that are on the ground and live amongst the wild and amongst the wildlife. I don't know.
And it just, to prove your point, is it's ballot biology. Wolves in Colorado. It was a vote. Can you believe this?
No, I can't.
It's like, just like what you were talking about earlier. It's 2023, and people in the woke realm are arguing what sex they are and wanting to change a biological condition. Mm-hmm. Like, if you think about that, that's insanity. That's psychological. You need mental help. You need counseling. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but no, you have mental issues.
These mental issues maybe comes out of this place from a society that has gotten way too comfortable. Like,
Yes.
you're not going to go to a third world country and listen to them arguing about what freaking bathroom they're going to use because they don't know what damn gender they are. It only happens in places like this where we get these emotional outrages over your order being wrong at the restaurant. And again, the activism for hunting, against hunting, it comes from the same place. And I think that foundationally, we have to get to the bottom of that before we can address whether or not we could talk any sense into some leftist that wants to change their gender and protest the fact that there's a deer season in Wisconsin or whatever. We have a foundational problem.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's a foundational problem. And if I were somebody living in Colorado, I would not accept ballot biology. If I was a hunter, an outdoorsman, or a recreator, I do not accept those results. I would fight every step of the way with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Whatever you can do to get involved and fight the introduction of the Canadian gray wolf into Colorado, because that's where these wolves came from. Mm-hmm. I've seen him destroy herds in Montana. I've seen him destroy herds in Wyoming, and it's not good. Let me tell you, the epicenter of where the wolf was released in 1995 in Yellowstone Park, the elk herds are down 75%.
I know.
And even more so. And
yeah.
They are volunteering to destroy their big game herds. And it's more than just deer and elk. I do the Montana MRS, and this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I'm deeply concerned about this. Moose, sheep, and goat populations in Montana. Every decade, we lose half our licenses for moose, sheep, and goat. Populations are declining at an alarming rate. And a lot of these core habitats for moose, sheep, and goat in Montana are grizzly bear and wolf country. This is super predator country. Mm-hmm. This is the only thing that has changed. And so because we've allowed these super predators to run rampant for 25 years, luckily they're hunting Montana and they're hunting wolves in Montana pretty heavily. But I will add that they're getting pressure from the feds to reduce their quotas in Montana because of the wolf lovers. That's a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah.
But these super predators are destroying our deer, our deer and elk populations as well, but our moose, sheep, and goat populations. And the same will happen in Colorado. In 10 years, we'll have half the amount of tags that we have now. In 20 years, I truly believe we won't have opportunity anymore to hunt moose, sheep, and goat. There won't be enough left unless something is done. We need to focus on habitat improvement, and we need to focus on managing these super predators, i.e., wolves, grizzly bears, and mountain lions. It's a huge deal. And so if you're a hunter or an outdoorsman, step up. Fight it tooth and nail. Let's fight this. Let's stand against it and do everything that we can to the opening of that gate in Colorado with that first wolf being dropped to prevent it. We have to, because our livelihood, our hunting, our ability to hunt and gather, and our kids' ability to do it are at stake in 20, 30 years. This is serious stuff.
It is very serious. What you're talking about, Dan, is the essence as to why I started this podcast, because I believe that hunters have a tendency to be kind of part of that silent majority where they let things happen to us and we don't proactively protect what we have. And the problem that we have is the activists are far more engaged, they're far more involved, they're very much a more unified and louder bunch than hunters are. We kind of have a tendency to sit back and we bitch about it and it's like, oh man, well, that sucks, that didn't go the way I was hoping. Colorado is in a tough spot, man. They have this, the governor is married to this dude that is basically a animal rights activist and has been for a couple of decades from what I hear. And they're appointing these people on the commission that are not these are not pro-hunters. These are not people that are advocates for hunting. You've seen what happens with that in Washington. They are not hunting advocates. They are not wildlife management activists. They are preservationists. And the fact that we just sit back, I don't know. I feel like Colorado there needs to be some outrage from hunters. We can only do so much from other states. It's Colorado hunters need to step up their reaction and stop taking it. We've got to all stop taking it, because we are not activists as hunters. We're just dudes and gals that like to hunt and have a passion for this thing that is as old as as mankind is. I've got this little whitetail buck, Dan, standing outside my my studio here. My studio, my little hunting trailer I record in, right? And it can hear me, and so it's just staring at me and staring at through this window, and it's like throwing me off. I'm trying to make all these good prolific points, but he's just a little guy. Anyways, I don't know why the dogs haven't chased him off. Anyway, I completely agree with what you said, from a sense that hunters are we're not doing enough. We're not being loud enough. We're not uniting enough. We're not coming to some of these meetings and holding these legislators accountable, because legislators should not be animal or wildlife managers. We're not coming together and holding commissioners accountable, and we're not coming together and holding the Fish and Game as liable as they need to be, depending on what state you're in, because it's going to be, there's a lot of variance between there's a big difference between Idaho and Wyoming versus Colorado and Washington, right? Just politically speaking. And so that's where the focus needs to be. Do you have suggestions as to how hunters can go about and do that and become more unified and get louder?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the blue collar guy is busy working, providing for their family,
Exactly.
living life right, and the opposition is collecting welfare checks and not working and playing the spoiled brat card, whining and crying and carrying on and doing extreme things. And, Jim, I don't know what the answer is as far as matching these people or these animal activists or these humane society freaks that are in the parks and wildlife in Colorado and California. But as hunters, as the opposition, we have to get loud and let our voices be heard and get involved in this stuff the loudest way possible. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to go tell you to go out there and do this or do that or do anything illegal, anything like that. That's not what I'm advocating, but you need to figure out what's right for yourself, thinking about the future of our ungulate populations and our ability to provide for our families and our kids to be able to provide for their families when they're older in 30, 40 years. That's what you're fighting for. So if that doesn't light a fire under your ass, then I don't know what will.
I don't know what will either, because again, to highlight a really important point that you just mentioned, and I kind of referred to it, is as hunters, we are generally that blue collar or just average kind of person that has a passion for something that we like to pursue, whether that's, whether you're the kind of hunter that just wants to go out on a couple of Saturdays every fall and shoot at deer, or you're somebody like I am, or Dan, whose, life kind of evolves around hunting. We are not animal activists, and that's the difference, because most hunters have a day job. Most hunters are family people. They're raising kids. They've got mortgages to pay. Hopefully they're not making a payment on a minivan, but some of them are. I'm being sarcastic, obviously, folks. There's a lot of different things that are pulling us in different directions. We're thinking about Christmas in 6 months. We're thinking about, selling this or buying that and going on a family vacation and all this stuff, where the animal rights activist is solely focused on that mission, the mission to end hunting. I'm not a super conspiratorial kind of guy. Do you think that you'd mentioned, like in 10 years, there's not going to be the tag numbers for moose, sheep, and goat in Colorado are going to be greatly reduced, and then like in 20 years, they might be non-existent. Do you think that that's the game plan from the animal activists when they do something like, hey, let's have a vote to release wolves into Colorado?
It's definitely part of the agenda, because their card is, we have these super predators. We have wolves to control the populations. We don't need hunting. So it's kind of the hidden agenda of the bigger picture. And they truly believe these things. And mark my words, what are we? 1995 is when the wolf was reintroduced into the park. So we're 2025. So that's 30 years, right? So, 30 years. And we saw the tolls after a decade. It takes some time, but after a decade, we've really saw the wolf take tolls on numbers outside the park. And let me add, when they released the wolf in the park, it was an experimental release, and the goal was 100 wolves and 13 breeding pairs. But you can see that, we give them an inch and they take a mile, and
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, enough is just now enough is never enough when it comes to the wolf.
Exactly. Well, and just the Northern Rocky Mountain region, the whole region of the wolf reintroduction plan. When you're talking about numbers, I'll give you for the state of Idaho, for example, was 150 wolves, 10 breeding pairs, and that was what the objective was. And the Idaho Fish and Game came and said, Idaho, as a state, the ecosystem and the the landscape can maintain roughly 300 to 500 wolves. We are now sitting at over 1,200 wolves, and I don't know how many breeding pairs, but that is more by 10 times. That the amount of wolves we have in just the state of Idaho is 10 times greater, because I think it was 2 years ago, it was up to like 1543 was the official count, 10 times greater than the entirety of the Northern Rocky tri-state region for wolf reintroduction, meaning Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana was supposed to be 150 wolves. And that was the minimum objective. The state of Idaho alone is 10 times greater than that. And it is not even 30 years later. And to your point, Dan, I'm old enough that we used to go to Yellowstone when I was a kid. And, I'm talking late 80s, early 90s, we'd go and we'd go camp, and you didn't see anything but elk and bison back then. There were giant bulls standing in every river. There were elk everywhere. And I'm not saying that overpopulated elk is a good thing either. However, you go back now, you don't see elk. You very rarely actually see elk. All you see are bison. And that's great. I love seeing the bison. That's awesome. In fact, I don't even like to go to the world's largest petting zoo anymore because it's just a shit show. But it's not the wild utopia that they thought bringing wolves would achieve. A 90% reduction, even or a 70%. I can't remember what the reduction rate in the state of, Yellowstone National Park is, but a 70 to 90% reduction rate in one species is absolutely uncalled for, and it's absolutely unacceptable that we allowed that to happen. And that's what we did by not managing wolves. And wolves in the park are still not managed.
No, they're not, and they're still trickling out all the time. Yeah. And that's a good what you said. I mean, that's just a good example. The federal government, they do what they want. They don't care what people say, what they think. And the parks are terrible for this. They're their own little playgrounds. They're like their own countries. National parks are. And I'm all about preservation, sure, of course, but they do what they want. They charge what they want. I have to pay. I'm a resident of Wyoming. I still have to pay $95 just to go from point A to point B if I want to go in the park or through the park. And on top of that, get this. So back in the day, they're saying, this is the old Nat Geo model that they used to justify dumping all these wolves into the park. They said, well, there's all these elk, and there's so many elk, they eat all the willows down. And now there's not enough beavers. There's no beavers because there's no willows for them to eat. And the elk, they cause all this erosion. And it's very hard on the habitat and the willows, and we need to get rid of the elk. It's a giant ecosystem chain. But now, in reality, I mean, this is what they're teaching my daughter in school, the Nat Geo agenda. And I said, no. She's 11. And I said, here's the real story. So the Lamar Valley, it was a very famous valley for elk numbers and bison and grizzly bears, but mainly the elk numbers. You go to Lamar Valley in September if you want to go view elk. Now, there's no elk to be seen. Bison numbers have tripled in the last 25 years, and erosion has tripled as well, because all this erosion, quote unquote, that they're blaming on the elk is actually from the bison. The bison are so much more hard on the ecosystem in the land. Just think of having 10,000 cattle being unchecked out in a pasture. Like, cattle destroy habitat if they're just left alone out there year round. They're way harder on the ecosystem than a herd of elk is. And so now you have all this erosion on the Lamar River and in the Lamar Valley, but no, that goes against the old Nat Geo political agenda justification. And so it doesn't get talked about. But in reality, the erosion is actually worse. There's no more beavers than there used to be. Give me a break. Yeah. And bottom line is they had to justify their reasoning for blindfolding the public and dumping wolves and making us deal with them for the last 30 years against our approval. Unbelievable. And this happened in America.
It's so unbelievable, man. It makes my fucking skin crawl to think that this kind of stuff people are so tolerant of fantasy being sold to them. And I don't care if it's man-made climate change. I don't care if it doesn't matter. Name your leftist stupid fucking topic that they always want to shove down everybody's throats. And they act like they're so enlightened and that we're all dumb and we can't think for ourselves. Folks need to start doing some critical thinking. Pardon my French, by the way, Dan. I use foul language on this show. But I don't understand when you're talking about like the federal government and coming from that level. Now I'm getting taxed to help suppress some fantasy about climate change that isn't even proven. And I have to pay more money to that, as if a tax is going to reduce climate change. As if that's a thing, like my money, right. The federal government's going to take more of my money than they already do, which is already ludicrous. And what are they going to do with it to stop climate change? I'm just curious. Like, does anybody have an answer for that? You're gonna force us to drive electric cars? It ain't happening, folks. It ain't. I will never drive an electric car. It won't work for me. I'm just all this stuff that comes out of the left, and people go along with it and believe it because CNN says it. It's mind-boggling to me, and it's so frustrating. I get so mad, I get tongue-tied while I'm even trying to talk about it on this show.
No, I feel your passion, man. It's crazy when the White House comes out with they want to put a blanket over the sun to prevent the sun's UV rays to help combat climate change. It's like, what planet are you from, Joe Biden?
Joe Biden, man. I just like I can't even get into that because it's just there's people that out there that literally think he's doing a good job as president of the United States, and it's mind-boggling. It's numbing. So anyways, I don't know where we were at, man. I got too mad.
Yeah, no, it's just a tough one to swallow when the general public, like, we just have a hard time. I mean, they pulled the wool over our eyes and did what they want, and the federal government continues to do that. And
that's how it always is. It's how it always is. Like, I mean, just look at the COVID shot. They developed this COVID shot, and all these politicians that are promoting it and telling people that we should all be forced to take this shot that was like experimental. By the way, they all happen to benefit financially from the companies that develop it. Okay. I just don't understand the naivete. I guess that's all I'm asking. I just want people to like have some critical thinking. And I know that these animal activists, they'll never get there. They've got so far down the propaganda trail. There's no coming back from it. Just out of pride alone, you could smack them in the face with a fact. And just out of pride alone, they are not going to come off this horse of being anti-hunting, animal activist, kind of mentality of all predators need to be placed upon a pedestal and never hunted or killed by mankind. Because this wildlife management balance utopia is going to happen if we just leave them alone. I hope that there is a way. It's not the activists that mind that I'm trying to change ever, because they're lost. It's the average American, the average person out there that I should hope could have and garner enough critical thinking skills to understand that 99% of the stuff you hear about wildlife management from activists is bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not true. It is not reality. It's not even based in reality. And I hope you don't fall for it.
Yep. Do some research, get out there, dig for yourself. Luckily, half of America, I feel like, is pretty level-headed, and, it's pretty bad. I mean, if now at this point in our history, looking at this administration, if you're believing what you're seeing come out of Washington, like, you're too far gone, like you said.
Well, yeah, I do see some hope. I think that a lot of people, I know people like this, man, that they go through life, they're focused on their job, they're focused on their kids, and they're focused on maybe a hunting season or some other various hobby that they might do, and they dabble in headlines every once in a while. Well, I heard this, and this, and it's called a low information voter. And then they wander into a voting booth, and because they saw some headline, they were convinced to vote for the other guy. And I think that people are starting to come out of that shell and understand that, man, I need to kind of pay attention to actually what's going on, because I feel like I'm getting the wool pulled over my eyes. And I'm starting to see the results of that, because this stuff matters. Even though I'm just maybe maybe I'm just a lawyer in some small town, or a plumber in some, urban area. It doesn't matter. You gotta, they're waking up to understanding that the way you vote affects your life every day. I mean, I guess one of the biggest concerning things, like I see right now, is we still have $4 gas. And people aren't freaking out anymore about it. It's like we've gotten used to this $4 gas thing, and it's, to me, it's unacceptable. We're not energy independent. We're like going the opposite direction. Instead, under the guise of climate change, we're shipping oil from overseas and paying some of our America's enemies to fill up your car to go to work. It's just ludicrous, dude. So, I guess we've burned this one down enough, huh?
Beat a dead horse a few times, burned her down, just smoke and ashes. That's all that's left.
Dan, of all the people, I never thought you were going to get me all fired up like that.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to, speak how I really feel, because, I hate saying it, but I'm political, but you have to be political, because wildlife management is political. It's not science nowadays.
Absolutely.
And so as much as you want to stay out of politics and say, oh, I don't do politics, I don't stop or talk about politics, if you care about our resource and providing for your family, well, it's time to get political. And so I feel passionate about it, and I feel passionate about providing for my family and leaving that legacy to my kids. And so that's why I'm fired up. That's why you got to see this side of me today, because I haven't ever let this out. So hopefully people enjoy this one.
Well, man, you're more than welcome to come on my show and invent that kind of stuff anytime, because this is what we do here. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you're a hunter or not. What matters is we don't have the luxury of not being political anymore in this day and age. It doesn't matter from the wildlife management side. It doesn't matter from the taxes side or the way your government's running shit. It's just, you don't have the luxury to not be political anymore. We don't live. This isn't 1985 anymore. So this is a good place for you to come on and share your feelings anytime, man. I always like having somebody that's, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I have a lot of respect for people that are fearless about, expressing their beliefs and their points of view. And I think it's important. It shows that you have a backbone, and there's a lot of people out there that, want to speak to certain topics or whatever, and they just don't have the backbone to discuss what the real foundational issues are. And so I appreciate you. It's been a good conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you're hunting. Any crazy good tags you got this year that I should know about, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing crazy. I finally drew a Montana antelope tag archery one, which has been almost
Nice.
impossible to draw the last 3 years as a non-resident. But I'm happy to get out antelope hunting again, and I got a couple general tags, and I'll be in some good stuff and some good adventures again, and it'll be fun. Guy has that moose tag. I'm going to go moose hunting with him, so
Right
that'll
on.
be
Right
yeah.
on.
That's what I'm really looking forward to, that hunt, because you don't get to hunt moose every day down here in the lower 48, so that'll be fun.
Heck yeah, man. That'll be awesome. Yeah, I didn't draw anything, man. It's all general for me
Yeah.
this year. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's okay.
Yep.
I'll take it. I'll take it, brother. We got some good over-the-counter stuff here. So not complaining. But once again, man, I really appreciate I like getting you on. You've got a lot of wisdom, a lot of information that I think people need to hear and like to hear it. And so, again, thanks a bunch for coming on. Everybody listening, check out the Eastmans.com and jump on that mule deer course and check that out. It's $89. When does that expire, Dan? The $89?
Yeah, we're going to go all the way to August 31st, beginning of archery
Nice.
season time frame. Yeah. So just that preseason special.
That's a good deal, guys. That's a lot of content for $89. And I'm telling you, instead of buying, whatever gadget or gizmo you think you might need this hunting season, spending on that mule deer course, it'll go a lot more, a lot longer ways for you. So, brother man, thanks again. Stick on the line for just a minute. Everybody else, thanks a bunch for listening, tuning in. I would ask if you hated this show, please just keep that to yourself and move on with life. But if you loved it, it means a lot to me and the team at Eastman's if you share it with somebody who you think would either benefit or would enjoy it like you did. You could like text it from, if you listen in Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something, you can actually text it to people. You can take a screenshot of like the episode promo that we do on Instagram and share it to your feeds. That goes a long way. And make sure you tag me. I might have some giveaway items for people that do that. And last but not least, I really appreciate if you guys can jump on Apple and give us a good review. That goes a lot to growing the show and the mission and everything we're trying to achieve here by saving the future of hunting, which is the stuff we talk about all the time. So, Dan, you the man, brother. Appreciate you joining me. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at the Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on